Where is my microphone? There. Am I here? Am I there? Are we ready for this? I think I am. I see Richard. I see Dusko. I think we're ready to go then. If everyone is here already. Hi. Well. Let me. Do I need anything? Do I need anything? I think we should be good, no? Is the light good? Oh, no. I think I'm making a mess out of this. Yes. There you go. All right. Okay, so I think we can get started. Hello, welcome everyone. This is Jose Luis here. This is Parametric Camp, live streams, mostly every Friday, computational design stuff. We record tutorials, we edit them, we publish them, we make cool projects. Hopefully, we teach stuff so that you can have fun with code and with creativity. And if you want to know more about what we do, we have social media. We're particularly active on Instagram. We have a Discord server. The link to the Discord server is in the description of this channel, of this video. And in the Discord server, we actually have conversations throughout the week. People post code questions. We help each other. It's very nice. And it's also a possibility, a way for me to get to know people in the community like Richard, Dusko, Nicolas, and Gustavo, whom I've been hanging out a lot recently in the live stream. I'm very happy to be here with people that are like-minded and that like to do this kind of nerdy stuff that we like. All right, beautiful. So what are we doing today? Today we are continuing with what we have been doing in the past few weeks, which is that we're building collectively, we are building a plugin for Grasshopper that is going to be called Brain, I think. And it's basically a plugin that we're going to be using, that we want to make so that people can have easy access to machine learning tools and AI tools, with a particular focus on those which are living somewhere in the cloud and that can be accessed through what's called an API, an application programming interface. So we're not going to write components to make machine learning from scratch. We're going to write components to access machine learning services that live somewhere in the internet ether. So that's pretty much what we're doing. And where are we on that front? Actually, let's do a quick recap. So if I go to the Parametric Camp channel, which is here, so this is me and this is us right now. If I go to the playlists, you can see that we have machine learning, etc., etc. And I am seeing more videos right now than you. So you're probably not seeing these 3 videos because they are right now scheduled for publishing, but they will be publishing in the next week or 2. But basically, what we have done so far is that we have created HTTP post requests, get requests, environment variables, and we also have a video that will probably go here in between these two. So this will probably be renamed 2.5, and there's a video that is going to be here in the middle of these two, which is this video that we recorded last week, which I haven't yet processed, which is about, what did we do? We took post requests and get requests, and we created basically 2 superclasses, or 1 superclass, I forget at this point, that we could use to inherit from, and then we could have like basically the same templates. And actually, Richard, who's in the channel right now, he actually has a pull request that is pending right now, where he also proposed like a rearrangement of some of the code there. That was actually quite interesting. So Richard, I looked at it. I think it's actually quite nice. I haven't decided what to do, because since we are kind of in the middle of recording this, what I saw in the code was that there were a lot of abstractions and things that were moved around in different places. I think the structure that you propose for the code would be the nice one to keep moving forward and for the final version of the plugin. But while I'm developing this, if I merge the PR right now, then I'm gonna have like a code base on the videos that is significantly different than the code base that we actually develop in the videos. So I think that's why I'm holding on for now, at least for a week or two, to your PR. Are you there, Richard? I'm holding on for a week or two to your PR. And then once I progress a little and I record like 2 or 3 more videos and we kind of wrap up the playlist, then I will merge those changes, and those will be the changes that we will use for basically the rest of the plugins, the rest of the components in the plugin. Does that make sense, Richard? No worries then. Good. Okay. Thanks a lot by the PR, by the way. I forget, did you volunteer to be part of the Brain plugin team? Because I'm gonna kick that off Monday next week probably. So I forget if you wanted to be part of it or not. Anyway, just stay tuned to the announcements. Okay. All right. Well, I guess you already are because you already have a PR pending. So. All right. Cool. All right, so what are we doing today? So I think today is going to be a good moment now to start writing. So now that we have a basic infrastructure of components, post requests, get requests, etc., I think it would be a good moment now to do what? A good moment now to take, yes, what are we going to do? We're going to write the first draft of a component to ping the OpenAI API. So that would be here, yes, and then API reference. For example, if we do text completion, what we could do today is just a simple example on how to ping the the create completion API. There was a component for retrieving models, right? Yes. ID model, reduce a model instance, provided basic information about the model, such as the owner and permissioning. Okay. Hello everyone, hello sir. Hello, good morning, hi. List models, interesting. And this is a get request. And retrieve model is also a get request. There's no posting here. So maybe this could be a simpler way of starting. The owner and permissioning. Model object owned by OpenAI permissioning, and I don't know what the permissioning is, completions. Or perhaps we should stick to completions because, I mean, it's kind of more cool, or more like what people want to do, just complete the test. All right. So one thing that is nice is that there is this API for getting a list of all the models that are available in OpenAI. And then I guess this one is new. So this one would be to get a list of properties of a model. I don't really know what those are. And then completions. So what this is going to involve, first of all, is figuring out a component that has all the inputs, the ones that are required or not, the prompts to generate completions encoded as a string, array of strings, array of tokens, or array of token strings. Note that end of text stuff is the document separated that the model is used. So if a prompt is not specified, the model will generate as it beginning from a new document. Suffix comes after completion of inserted text. Maximum tokens, temperature, top P, and stream, whether to stream back partial process. This we're not going to do. Log probe, include the log probabilities. The maximum value for log probes is 5. Echo back the prompt in addition to the completion. Stop, well, it has a lot of parameters. VI chat, VI completions, messages, role, temperature, top, tokens, frequency penalty, logic bias, user. Okay, so this is gonna take some work, I guess. Create edits. Yeah. But it is what it is. I guess completions. Prompt, string or array, suffix, maximum tokens, temperature, top beam, integer, stream. We're not going to stream because that's its own server sent events, because this is like a whole other no. And log probabilities. The maximum value of log prop is 5. If you need more than this, please contact us. Echo, stop, presence penalty, frequency penalty, best of. Okay. So maybe something that we can start with is for the video, because this is very complicated, I think, and there's a lot of things and there's a lot of things to harness here. I think perhaps for the video, something that we could do is we could start with a simplified version of this component. And we could start with a simplified version of this component. And then we get the response. And then we get the response, and the response we have to deserialize it. Maybe, what if we start with models? Because models, because models is going to be easier, because at the end of the day, one thing that we're going to have to spend some time today is the idea of taking this and deserializing it. And deserializing the thing. So that's gonna, and we're gonna have to create a model, a schema for that. And we're gonna have to we're gonna have to prototype whether if we do a schema, whether if we do a dynamic object. All right, so what do folks think? In case I'm trying to be as educational as possible here. So for someone watching the video, they watch the post, request, get, whatever, blah, blah, and then the first video that they watch should be the first component that we're building that makes a call to the API, forms some kind of request, well, in this case get, or in this case post, and then and then takes the response, deserializes the response, and outputs in each one of the outputs the correct, the adequate so I wonder, because what I'm wondering here is that if we do create completion, it just has so much stuff here and here in the form of creating the request and in the form of deserializing the response, that it might be a little too much. So I'm wondering if a better way to start is to start with a simple component that just lists the models, because it's a little simpler. It's a get request. We don't have to serialize the request, so we don't have to serialize the JSON that is the body of the request. And then we can focus perhaps on the first video on how to deserialize the response. Because this in itself is already going to be kind of a thing, because we need to first introduce probably Newtonsoft JSON library. We're going to have to turn this into lists that are output by the component. Interesting. All right, so how about this? Let's try to prototype quick and dirty right now what this component would look like, and let's take some time to experiment with what would be a good way to deserialize this JSON file. Let's just try it out right now, and then based on how that works, we make decisions about how do we frame this in terms of the video. Because also I have a meeting today a little early, so I'm gonna have to cut it off a little earlier than usual. And I don't want to okay, so let's do that. Yeah, yeah, you're right, Richard. I think we better keep it simple. Let's start simple. So brain plugin, where are you? Went to the other screen. Where are we here? Okay, so we had, what did we have? We have utility components. Okay, so, all right. So let's start a folder, and we're gonna call this folder OpenAI, for example. All right, and then for OpenAI, we're gonna get list models component. And then new item, this is gonna be a Grasshopper component, and this is gonna be OpenAI, and this is gonna be list models component. Okay, so this is going to inherit from the template, which is HTTP async. Okay, so using brain.templates, and then using Grasshopper component, HTTP asynchronous. So this is going to be list models, and the description, lists models available in the well, or maybe I can just copy this like this. There you go. Category brain, subcategory OpenAI. Okay, beautiful. And then I forget, how did we do this? so get request async. Okay, so brain, blah blah blah. So we're going to copy this. Okay, so I'm gonna let me dock this on the side. Okay, so the input is going to be whether we want to send or not send, and we need the key, right? As well. So where is that? Authorization. Yes, all right. And this, and the authorization. And this is not optional. This cannot be optional for us. This is optional for a generic GET request, but not for us. And the timeout probably is also something that we want to, okay. All right, so that's the input. And then for the output, let's start first with the raw response. So we're gonna output the entire thing. And then for solve instance, this whole thing, we need to clean it up a little. Okay, so we're gonna need to clean it up. At some points should expire, inactive error, complete, set data, response. Okay, so we get the response there, active authorization token set. We don't get the URL. No, that is already, we already have that. And then what would we do? Here, as part of the component, we probably want to say private read-only string URL, and that's going to be this one. And this is going to be this. And can we make this constant? Yeah, no. No, sorry. Constant, exactly. Constant string. I think I need more coffee today. Endpoint, and that's going to be all this stuff here. And then here we get asynchronous, the endpoint. All right. So when we get that, we should expire whatever, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So we're going to try this out. See how easy it was to create a GET request based component using the template, except for all the copy pasting, which I hate, but at some point we'll just figure that out. Okay, so here, so where is brain? Where is brain? Is this one? OpenAI. Okay, list models. So we have this, and I guess we need the authorization token and this and this. I'm going to copy all of this here. And so this is get. So all of this is going to be get, all of this is going to be post. And then here, I'm going to copy paste. And then we have this, we have the timeout. And then we have the OpenAI, blah, blah, blah. Okay, inactive response. So this would be the response. And then if I turn this on, requesting, all right, so we get a list of, wow, that's a lot of stuff. All right. So we get all this stuff here. And honestly, I don't think we need to deserialize this entire thing. It's kind of a lot. What's interesting basically for us is the IDs. Owned, OpenAI permissions, model permission, create, allow create any sampling, log props, search indices, view, fine-tuning, organization. What if I didn't have the full names? Okay. So add a similarity. So I guess something we could do is we could basically, how can we do this? I think it's useless that we give people a dump of this entire thing. I think it makes no sense. Very few people are going to need all of this stuff, I think. My impression. However, since we got the response anyway, something that we can always do is any component may always just offer the entire response as a dump. In case more expert users need to actually parse some information that they see here. So maybe they can use JSON to like start deserializing this stuff. But in our case, for the most part, I would assume that what we may want from the output is something of the kind this. So we want basically the ID, which is like the list of, because this is what you would use to plug into other completion models. GPT-4, huh, okay. All right, so then the challenge for us is to take the response and to deserialize the response into an object. Okay, so because what I would like to do here is I would like to output model IDs, for example. And am I interested in whatever this object? Is there anything other than object? Created, when was created? Also not probably not very interesting or very useful. Owned by OpenAI systems, OpenAI dev, internal. That's kind of interesting though. Not sure how useful. Permissions, root. I don't know what root means. And then parent. There's no parent for any of these. Okay. Okay, so let's say we keep this, the response. And then now what we want is to take the response and deserialize it into a JSON-like object. And then take all of these and make a list of models. So I'm gonna copy this. So I'm gonna copy data only. I'm going to open some Visual Studio, and we're gonna keep a copy of these somewhere here. Yeah, because this we may need to use this. We may need to use this to make sure that we don't miss anything. Okay, so I'm gonna keep this right here, and then what we're going to do is now we're going to try to deserialize this. So I'm going to save this, and this is gonna go, and then we're back here. And then basically at this point in the output, what we probably will have to do is some kind of deserialize the response, and this would be stored as something like that. And so this function will take care of taking the response and then turn it into some kind of object data structure that has all the information that is available here. And there's several ways to do that. What are ways of doing that? There are, well, so, okay, so I don't know how familiar you folks are with JSON data in C#, but it's notoriously a pain in the ass. So in JavaScript and in Python, did I say the P word? Ooh. Anyway, in JavaScript and other programming languages, JSON data structures are part of how the language works, but in C#, it's actually quite obscure how to work with them. So turns out that in fact, Rhino Common does have some already bundles. Already bundles. What is it called? Newton JSON, Rhino.json. Is it not part of this? Using Newton's. I thought dependencies, packages, Grasshopper. Let's take a look at the project. What is the project? Let's take a look at the package. So if we go to Rhino Brain plugin, source, and what are the packages? We don't have the packages here. Object debug, object brain, project assets debug, net 48, net. Okay, brain plugin. Nope, they are referenced. Interesting. Where are the packages? Utility components, binaries, and where the package is downloaded. New Solution Explorer view. No, where is this? It's on install Newtonsoft JSON as a separate nugget package. Yes, that's the whole point that I'm trying to make, Nicholas. Rhino actually bundles a version of that with Rhino. So you can use directly Rhino's version if you want to. Okay, so it's okay, so it's in users, JLX, and then nugget, and then packages, and then Rhino Common, and then which version of Rhino Common are we using? Which version of Rhino Common are we using? 7.13. Rhino Common, build, library.net, ito, Rhino Common, XML. Huh. So let me Google this then. Rhino Common, Newtonsoft. Exactly. This is the. Revert back to an earlier. I got the Rhino has this. What I agree to Rhino Common. Things really comes to. This comes down to Rhino Common now shipping with Newtonsoft Rhino, a vendor-dized version of Newtonsoft. That is exactly what I'm talking about. Rhino 7 bundles with a version of this. So there is a conflict other than reverting back to 7.1. Revert back to add new build flavors. You saw the project. Use extern alias to reference Newton JSON soft in. I would recommend number 2. No. So where is this? We shipped the Rhino version because we were getting so many conflicts in different branches, shipping different versions of this library. We'll pull this DLL out of our nugget package. So it's all right. So okay, so 7.8 doesn't have the nugget package doesn't have the Newton soft. That's why it wasn't showing up. I believe we added the Newton soft of our in Rhino 7.7. Rhino 7 is scheduled July and we had to schedule services. Actually was that was first included, the newer without the... Where can we find? This is in the Rhino system directory for your installed Rhino. Oh boy, okay. So now if we want to reference this, we have to reference from... So is that true? Wait. So then 7.5 library. You see, in 7. You're very right. 7.5, it bundled JSON, and in 7.7 still has the JSON, and in 7.8 it's gone. Okay, that's the issue, because we're using 7.13. The NuGet package doesn't bundle the JSON. Okay. I think it wasn't a bad idea to include in the... I know. It would have been great. I like Vicente a lot. All right. Yeah, so I guess this would mean... Yeah, well, okay. So then what do we do? So we have two options. I can either just simply reference that package here, but then the problem with that, I can just basically go here and add a project reference and then just like try to find, for example, in my system, we can do program files, Rhino 7 system, and then Newton soft JSON. I can just reference this like this. But then the problem with that is that anyone who may not have this exact path in their system will not find this file. So people who will clone this project and try to use it will not have access to this. That is one problem. And also the other problem with that is that by doing this, we will basically rely on whichever version of the Newton soft JSON file is bundled with whoever is using the plugin. But if people use updated versions, etc., then it becomes an issue. So let's say we rely on people downloading the plugin and then using whichever version of Newton soft JSON comes with their version of Rhino. And if there's some kind of incompatibility, they will not be able to use the plugin. So the safe way of doing this would be we bundle our own version of Newton soft JSON. We ship it with the plugin. So people have to have this with their plugin. But then that might raise the issues that are being mentioned here. Compatibilities and clashes. Oh, what a pain. What a pain. So what are we going to do then? What are we going to do? Okay. I think for the time being, we are going to use the version that is bundled with, I'm gonna keep this somewhere here. I'm just gonna keep this somewhere here so that I don't forget. We're just gonna use the version that ships with Rhino. But for the future, I would like to switch that to a version of the Newtonsoft JSON Nougat package that we ship with. This is very nice, actually. Okay. Using the deserialization and Rhino common. This is probably also a good. This is probably a good link to also keep around. Okay. All right, so let's try with that. And since we're prototyping right now, this is not going to be a permanent solution, but we're just going to use it for now. So I'm going to now using newtonsoft.json. Okay. And then deserialize JSON with Newtonsoft C#. Deserialize an object. So yes, so we basically create a schema and deserialize an object, a collection, an anonymous type. An anonymous type would basically be an anonymous type with custom creation converter. Deserialization with insert dynamic object into a dynamic object. Yeah, whatever. Okay. Okay. That could be one way to do it, I guess. So all right. Sorry, I need to take, I think it's an important call. I need to take it. I'll be right back. Hold on. All right, sorry, that was from my doctor's office. Okay, so where were we? Where were we? We were about to deserialize. Okay, yeah. So when we do JSON deserialization with JSON convert, there's two ways of doing it. One is basically creating a class that represents the data structure that you are trying to deserialize, and then deserialize it into that data structure. So that's one way to go. The other way to go is you try to deserialize it into a dynamic object. And a dynamic object in C# is basically an object that can have any shape, any data type, any subtypes inside. It's basically a placeholder for whatever, right? And then what you do is that in your code, you trust that the properties that you're trying to access are available in that deserialization. So I think the dynamic way is more expensive computationally, and I think it's also more error prone because I think it's more computationally expensive, but because we're going to be doing one request every here and then, I don't think that's an important issue for us. It would be expensive if we were just working with like arrays of dynamic objects, etc., etc. However, something that could be good for us is that if we use a dynamic object, if for whatever reason the specification of the response would change, the dynamic object would be able to absorb those changes so long as when we're targeting a property by a name, that property still exists. Whereas if we use a schema here, like this one, if we use a schema and we have email, activate, all this stuff, whatever, the moment any of these things change from the specification of the response, the object is not going to deserialize property and we're going to get an error and everything is going to break. So I think maybe for the time being, we go for dynamic objects, I think. Let's give it a try. So the request URL would change, would it not? I have this thing if the API changes. So Richard, you have a good point. Maybe this version would change if the response changed, but I'm not entirely sure. And actually, when I was looking at this a few months ago, I don't remember any kind of permission or owned by kind of situation. So I don't know if they added this recently, and I don't know if they have a policy of not updating versions unless the data changes. But if they add data, then the version stays the same. I don't know what their policy for version updates is. So I think let's try this. So let's do var data is going to be JSON convert, and it's going to be deserialize object, and for dynamic types, deserialize object of the type dynamic, and then this is going to be the response. Okay. Let's see if that works. And then for the outputs, what did we have? Let's say that the output is going to be so let's say, for example, we create an output, and the output is going to be here. It's going to be models, and it's going to be available models, and this is going to be a list, okay? And this is going to be text. So what we do here is we take, for example, list string models equal new blah blah blah, right? And then we try, just to make sure, because it's a dynamic object, so we might not be we try here to just basically read from data. We're going to read from data. Let's call this a different thing. Let's call this res JSON from for each what is it going to be for each model in response JSON.data, we're going to add, what are we going to add? We're going to add from model, we're going to add the ID. Model.id to string. I think it should be a string in itself. Model.id. Otherwise, add runtime message, runtime level error. Something went wrong, deserializing the response. Okay, and there's nothing else to add here. And then X to string. And then here for the output, we set data. We're going to set response. And then we're going to set models is going to be models. Okay, so let's see if this works. Oh, what did I break? Missing compiler, required member, C# argument. Missing compiler, required member. What is this? What? Convert to link? From model in. Okay. The expression over source of dynamic with a joint sequence of type dynamic are not allowed. Missing compiler. Oh, okay. So I guess we may need to get a list of elements first. Var models equals res.json.data. Model array, and then this dynamic, and this is going to be as model array. And then for each m in model array, and this is not going to work either. Models add m.id. Well, I guess it did work. So let's see if this compiles. No. All right, missing compiler, require member. What am I doing here? All right, so let's take a look at the error. Missing compiler, required member. Missing compiler, required member. Missing compile. I guess I've been here before then. Install the Microsoft Sharp package in the .NET Standard library is necessary to use the C# dynamic data type in a .NET Standard library. In my case, it was because it was not referring to Microsoft C#. What? Really? Okay. All right, so So I can't access C# argument info create. What is going on here? Well, this is not fixing it for me. Can I build? No. Copy. I'm using Visual Studio. I'm using compiler. You must install Microsoft Sharp library to your solution from Nugget. You can use Package Manager, Microsoft Sharp. What? Really? Dependencies. Okay, so Nougat, where is the browse Microsoft.C#? So for compilation and code including dynamic using the C# language. Okay. Yep, I'm going to install this. And then using Microsoft.C#. Oh, and now it worked upon compilation. Oh, this is so weird. Okay. Well, then I'm gonna give it a try then. And now, do we have to? So is this still now part of the debugging process? So debug, brain plugin. Yes, I would like to see them. Parameter chunk is missing. What? Oh, that was probably just JSON file not working. Okay. Something went wrong. Cannot deserializing the response. Cannot perform runtime binding on a null reference at call site. Blah blah blah. The best overloaded method for add string has some invalid arguments. Okay, so it's not working. But if it's false, then this should not be triggering. This is so strange. If should expire. So maybe we just need to create the schema. And that's it. Instead of working with dynamic objects. Because if we do just, what happens here? The best overloaded match for system collections generic list string add string has some invalid arguments. I may just be doing something wrong here. Or does that work now? Yep. Ta-da! And then models. What is this? System collections generic, because I'm not outputting. Set dot set and data list. All right, exactly. So now off and on, and now we have all the models here. All the models here. And I needed to forcefully turn this into a string. That is so weird. The ID is already a string. That's kind of strange. I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to turn this on. And yes, I need to apparently explicitly convert this into a string. Okay. What I don't understand is why are we getting an error if it's false? If send request state of should expire true. Oh, I see. Okay, so I'm gonna move this here, outputs, and then if request state is different than off, if request, if current state equals off, then just return. All right. Otherwise, if active request, then parse response. I think that should fix the. Can I perform runtime binding on a null reference? If active request, parse the response. Yeah, because it's never off. It just turns. I see. Oh, what a mess. This is just not looking great. I'm not liking this at all. So I guess the result, this could be equals inactive. I mean, this would work, but it's not very clean. Requesting and okay. Okay. So that's one way to go. So that we have that way. What if we had a different way where we had here we had a private class that was going to be something like list model response schema. List model response schema. And that we can just say, well, The schema is going to have a string object. Is going to have a, we should also define an array of this kind of objects. So for example, private class model schema. And this has something like this. So we say string ID, string object, string num, long created, string owned by, and really I don't want to have to deal with this on this whole thing. So something like this. And this is going to be a list of model schema models. No, data. This is called data. So now what if we try to deserialize it like this? So let's say I'm going to comment all of this, and I'm going to rewrite this to say response JSON is, I'm going to try to deserialize as a list model schema. I think I'm going to move all of this to, actually wait, this should be here. Yeah. So I think I'm going to move all of this here, and this is going to be here, and this is not going to be, and this is going to be here. And this, no, models must be outside. Okay, so here we have the models. We deserialize the object into a, what is it called? A response model, list response model, list models response, list models response schema. And we get the response. And then here, and this is an object of this kind. And then dot, and this should be public, I guess. All right, this should be, okay, protected, for example. These should be protected. We're all gonna make them protected so they're accessible to other parts of the code. And then there's going to be data. Why is it not? Okay, then public it is. Can we make this public? Is it gonna work? Is that the problem? List models. So dot exact data. There you go. And then, so we have data, we have model array. So it's the list of model schemas. So model array, so this should be model list, for example, for each model add, and then ID should be a string already. So there should be no issue here. Now, my question is, if I don't deserialize any of this, if I only deserialize the object partially, is that going to work? Do I need to provide a full specification? That's my question here. So let's see if that works. Oh, it works. Interesting. It does work because we're using that part of the code, right? Yes. So string models, list models, response schema, deserialize object, model schema, list at the ID. Okay. If that's the case, I wonder, because if we can do it partially, then I'm not so worried about having to define the entire full specification with every single object, every single permission, everything, blah, blah, blah. Because if I'm only targeting retrieving the ID, really, then if I'm only targeting retrieving the ID, then I'm much more chill about this. Because I don't have a problem creating a small model which only has basically the items that I'm trying to target, and then I use that schema as a way to deserialize the response. Well, but I still want to keep the yeah, because then I don't need to get into dynamic objects, etc. It's a bit cleaner, I'm thinking. And even if things change, so I could see, where is the, out of here. I could see this API getting more added stuff, but I don't think this is going to, because if they change this is going to break a lot of things. So I wouldn't think they would change the name of a property. I would think they may add more information, but if we have the flexibility of creating schemas that are partial, then I think I'm going to sleep better tonight. So if that's the case, then my intuition is the way we're going to do this is by using schemas for components. Yeah, I'm going to copy this. Stream, what are we here? So I'm going to add this. I'm going to copy this here. I'm going to add blah, blah, blah. I'm going to copy this other here as well. Okay. And then I'm going to remove this dependent. I'm going to shut this down. Oh, disconnected context? What the hell? What is this? Well, and I don't need this in the workbench. Okay. I don't need this. I don't want to mess with. Oh, but I still have the Newtonsoft JSON right now. I'm going to remove this package. And is it removed from the, yes, source templates OpenAI again. So I'm going to remove this. And I'm going to remove that dependency, and then right, Richard? It lets seem a bit more orderly and a bit clearer, especially for newer people to this. Okay, so now, how do we turn this into a video? I guess the way we could do that is we could start the video where we say, well, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to low-hanging fruit, simple model, it's a GET request, we get the JSON blob, we output, we have a response, and that's it. But then what we want to do is we want to target a particular... Okay, now here's the thing. Should I make a video? Should I make a video that I post somewhere else, like in the C#, for example, playlist that is only about JSON deserialization? That is only about JSON deserialization. And then I explain that just as a video in the C# playlist, for example. And then in this playlist, in the Brain plugin, I reference that other video and I explain, let's take a look at that, blah, blah, blah. And then I think that actually sounds better. Yes. So maybe I can do two videos in some other playlist, how to serialize a JSON and how to deserialize a JSON file. Huh. Okay, this is getting complicated. Like that, you can explain pros and cons of both methods. That does make sense. And we could explain it with the console application. We could explain it with the console application and with a simple JSON file. With a simple JSON file that we don't, so we don't, in the example, we don't need to get into, what is it called? We don't need to get into, in the JSON example, we don't need to get into GET request, POST request. We can say that this is a very common thing that you would do using HTTP requests, but we just have the JSON right there. And then we basically okay. So what would that look like? Okay, so let's take a quick break here. All right, and let's start another prototype. So let's say I do a very quick and dirty console application in the .NET framework. And this is going to be called, for example, JSON test. Okay. And here I'm going to say, well, first of all, I'm going to load NuGet. I'm going to browse here, Newtonsoft by James King, 3 billion downloads. All right. James Newton King? I don't know. Okay, so this one, for example, and for .NET. So install. Yes, let's install this. And now here we have the assembly info. And for example, let's say var JSON equals JSON convert. So using Newtonsoft.json. And then here JSON convert dot deserialize object, and the object is going to be whichever type we create, right? And my And this could be something like this, right? So we could have the JSON. Where is this? Edit, advanced format document. Oh, okay. JSON deserialized object, and this I'm going to do dynamic, for example, to start with, and that's going to be the JSON parsed. And this is a type dynamic. And then here I could have, for example, public class person and as a public string email, a public bool active, a public date, whatever, and roles. Okay. Okay, so we could do this. And then we just deserialize this system text JSON versus. Yeah, that's a good point. I have not system.text.json in C#. High performance, blah, blah, blah. Deserialize example. Hi, Andres. Using C#. Code samples. Namespaces. How can I deserialize? Later to the end user functionality later on the component templates. What functionality what are you talking about, Tim? Deserialize extra. Weather forecast, deserialize, weather JSON string. So it basically works the same. Records, for example. Hi, Chandra. Okay, let's try with system text JSON. Maybe, I mean, if we save ourselves having to import text. Wait, so this is not .NET framework? Oh boy. It's C#. So this is not available in the .NET framework. Why needed to use blah blah. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So I guess we can't use this because we're in the .NET framework. Okay. Which is good to know because we can also mention that in the available in .NET framework. One day, I'm gonna make a video about what is .NET, .NET framework, .NET standard. And we're gonna get that out of the way, and we're also going to sleep much better that night. And system text JSON inherent in Microsoft there. pattern matching as well. Oh boy, yeah. Okay, so what could this example look like? Let's say YouTuber. How can we make this a little more fun? YouTuber, no. This is a program. And then the class person is going to be YouTuber. And then it's going to be public string name, public string email, public boolean. What could be a boolean for a YouTuber? Active, yes. And then public list of string. Public list of string. I want to make campers. Yeah, but then YouTuber is too generic and campers is too specific. Members, for example, YouTuber name, public, and then it's going to call channel. All right, and then this, the JSON could be. The JSON could be, so here's name. Name is going to be Jose Luis. Active is going to be true. So this would be channel. It would be parametric camp. Active true. And then members. What are we going to do here? So, all right. So what do we got? We got Richard. Sorry. We got Richard. We got a lot of Richards here today. We got Richard. We got Tim. We got Victor. We got, who do we got? We got Chandra. We got Andres. Oh, damn it. We got Andres. And that's as much as I can see on the list right now. And Nicholas. All right. And Nicholas. All right. So, and maybe an integer, some kind of, yes, so public age, integer age, and then age is going to be 3 years old, and then so deserialize, so this would be YouTuber, and then this would be an object of the kind YouTuber, and then I can basically console write, for example, parsed name, and then console read key. and then this is, so this would be so this would be deserialized. And now what we could do is we could also do string serialized is going to be equal to JSON convert serialized object of the type YouTuber, or maybe it's not even needed. Deserialize. I don't even think that the type is needed here. And then here we're going to write serialized. Does this work? It does work. I get the name and I get the JSON file with everyone in there. And what is never assigned to, and it will always have its default value as null. Okay. All right, so let me then just copy everything here on the side. And I want to basically start a new thing. Okay, and where is this going to go on the playlists? So is it going to be in learning C# or is it going to be in coding gems? Learning C#, bitwise operators. Because we could also have this in coding gems. Parsing CSV data, CSV files, it kind of feels like it would go really well here. Coding gem, parsing, serializing, deserializing. JSON deserialization. It might have to be a coding gem here. Okay. All right, I think we're gonna make this video, and if we have time, we do the other one because I have to leave in about half an hour. Okay, so let's get started. And then I would have this here, and we're not gonna use this for the time being. Okay, and I have Newtons of JSON. Deserialize an object. 13, deserialize an object. Exactly, very good. And then I'm going to start with a program like this. And then this program is going to start, and it's here, properties, okay. And I want to get rid of this. And I'm going to have that here on the side, and any references, Newtonsoft JSON. I want to start from scratch, I think. Yeah, so let me start from scratch. And it's because I'm going to start from scratch because if we go to the GitHub, in the coding gems, we probably want here coding gem do, for example, and this is going to be called JSON serialization. And I may also just have a file here called YouTuber or something like that. All right, I'll figure that out. So what we're going to do is we're going to start a Visual Studio project. And I'm going to create a new project. A console application, and I'm going to call this JSON serialization. And I'm going to put it in there. Should I do this on the video? I'm going to do this on the video, actually. And then the video will start. I'm not gonna start here right away. So I would start the video and then I will copy paste the JSON. I'm gonna dump it in the console and then we're gonna start working with that, okay? Okay, so let's get started. So this is gonna be JSON deserialization, okay? Okay, wait, let me think about what we're doing. So we're gonna be doing, yes. Now, here's the question. Will I want to do introduction to J? Do I want to do like a multi-video? Do I want to do a multi-video? So what did I do in this video actually? In this video, I went over. Oh my God, I was so young. Look, this was like 3 years ago. Look at this microphone, this chunky microphone. Is the desktop audio? Okay. Okay, so this was gonna be. So what was I doing? Ah, this was some coursework stuff that I was doing. Okay. And we could do this also from a file. So we could have a file, a JSON file. And maybe we want to do that. And we can do, all right, so introduction, we don't need to, I can just get right into it, I think. So I probably want to have a file here called parametric camp.json, and this parametric camp.json is going to be sorry folks, it's on my other screen. This file is going to be so basically let's replace all of this with this. Okay, and then format document, there you go. Yes, so how are we going to start the video? There's going to be the introduction. Then I'm going to explain. So what are we doing here? So you're probably familiar with JSON files, and you're probably familiar with JSON files. It's opening in the wrong window. You're probably familiar with JSON files. Why do you open in the wrong one? Nah. Oh, this is frustrating. Oh, okay, so that worked. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have I'm gonna turn this into an object that I can use in. I'm gonna turn this into an object that I can use in inside of C#, right? So I'm going to create a console application. I'm going to I'm going to create a console application, and I'm going to just copy paste that file. I'm going to copy paste a version of that file that has okay, and then we will load it from, or I can just do it from the file directly. That's also okay. Yes. So I'm going to copy paste that, and then what I'm going to start is, and then after that I will say, well, what we're going to be using is this library called Newtonsoft. Just JSON.NET from Newtonsoft. If you are in the .NET framework, that's what you would like to use. But if you are in .NET or .NET Standard, in .NET, you may want to use system.text.json, which is not available in the .NET framework. So we do that, and then I explain how are we going to do that. Okay, so let's get started then. Video. We're recording finally. So let's start with the basics. What are we going to do in this exercise? Well, you're probably familiar with JSON files. JSON files are blah, blah, blah. JSON. All right. What is JSON? Yeah. What is JSON? Okay, no. What is a JSON? No. I don't need to do that. I'm fine. I can. All right, so let's start with the basics. What are we going to be doing in this video? In this video, I would like to teach you how to deserialize JSON data. And what is JSON data? JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation, and it's basically a way of organizing data that makes it very easy for machines to read and to write. So if you remember from previous videos where I was showing you how to deserialize and parse CSV data, comma-separated values, there's actually a link to the video popping up in the corner of the screen. This is just an alternative way that is perhaps a bit more flexible and less tabulated. So if you ever have a JSON file or the JSON data structure is going to look something like this. It's going to have some open and closing curlies, and it's going to have basically a set of key value pairs. It's going to have the key, that is the name of the property, and that is going to be the value of that property. The key is always going to be a string, and the property or the value is always going to be something of the basic primitive types that are available in C# and in other programming languages. Like for example, a string, or it could be a boolean, or it could be an integer, or it could be a double, or it can also be other arrays of data, or it can also be other JSON objects themselves. Okay, so it's a bit richer data structure, and it turns out that JSON data is one of the most popular formats these days for exchanging information, especially if you're working with data that is going into or that is coming from the internet and from APIs, application programming interfaces. So knowing how to read JSON data and incorporate it into our C# programs, or knowing how to take some data that we have in C# and generating a JSON representation of that data object and sending it somewhere to an API call or whatever, turns out to be really, really useful. So what I would like to teach you in this video is how having JSON data, how to turn it into a C# object or vice versa. So that would be serializing or deserializing information. The way we're going to do that is I'm going to start a Visual Studio instance, and I'm going to create a very simple project called JSON testing. I'm going to be using the .NET framework because a lot of the work that I do also integrates into software that uses the .NET framework. But you're welcome, if you're a bit more modern or you're watching this from the future, you're welcome to use the .NET Core, .NET Standard, whatever you want to do. Okay, so I'm going to create this console application called JSON serialization. Okay, I'm going to place it on my desktop, and then I'm going to have this simple console application. All right. So you've seen how I have this JSON file in my file system, but for starters, to make it a bit easier, I'm just going to copy paste this JSON string that has basically a data structure representing some kind of person or some kind of YouTuber, namely me. So this is going to be my name, my channel, whether if I'm doing this or not, etc., etc. Okay, and then I'm going to console write this. I'm going to dump it on the console, and I'm going to pause the execution of this console application. And I'm going to see if this works. So I'm going to crank this, and this works, and I'm getting right now a dump of this JSON data structure in the form of a string, and I'm posting it into the console. Okay, beautiful. But as you may or may not have noticed, this is actually a fairly complicated string. It has a lot of like curly brackets, apostrophes, double quotes, square brackets, etc., etc. So cherry picking from this entire data structure, and this is actually a very simple one, but cherry picking from this entire data structure the objects that I may need, like my name or my channel, etc., could be tedious by just doing string manipulation. So that's why there are tools that help us take something that is in JSON format and deserialize it into an object that we can cleanly use and exchange, and vice versa. Okay, so let me show you what that looks like. At the time of this recording, the .NET framework doesn't have very streamlined or very elegant ways of dealing with JSON files. So one of the most popular tools at the time of this recording for JSON's deserialization is actually this library from Newtonsoft called JSON.NET. This is kind of the standard these days that people use. But if you're in the future and using the .NET Core or .NET flat.NET, some of these tools are already embedded in that framework. I will explain that in a second. So the way this works is that we're going to be importing the JSON.NET library into our project. And then we're going to be doing this thing which is called creating a schema of the data that we want to deserialize. What that means is that what we're going to be doing is basically create a class that represents a template for the data that we expect to deserialize. And hopefully the data that we have will match that template for an object. And then designing that template and then using the JSON convert class of the library to deserialize this object will make it very, very simple. Okay? So the first thing we're going to do is, because we are in the .NET framework, we are going to bring in the Newtonsoft.json library for deserialization. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to right click on my project. I'm going to go to manage NuGet packages. I'm going to go to browse, and here I'm going to type Newtonsoft. And you can see that the first thing that pops up is this library that has 3.2 billion downloads, which means that it's kind of popular at still these days, right? So I'm going to install this NuGet package in my project, correct? And then I'm going to go to the beginning and I'm going to say using newtonsoft.json, all right? Now, if you're watching this from the future and you're using .NET or .NET Standard, or you're just simply not into .NET Framework, then my understanding is that you might be able to use system.text.json, which is available in non.NET frameworks, okay? For non.NET framework. However, because I am in .NET Framework, that's why for this video, we're going to be using the Newtonsoft version. But I believe that actually both are almost identical, and that you could be switching between the two with no problem, all right? So with this, you're going to see how easy this is going to be. So I have this string representation of an object that is something that has a name, a channel, active, age, and some members. So I think this maybe I could basically represent it with some kind of template that I'm going to call YouTuber, all right? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to define an internal class that is going to live in parallel here with main. So I'm going to say here, I'm going to say public class, and I'm going to define a class that is going to be the template that all this information is going to adhere to. I'm going to call this YouTuber, for example, open and close curlies. And what I would like to do now is I would like to define properties with their data types that match what I expect from my JSON data. So for example, this is going to be, for example, a string called name, and I need to be very careful so that this property, name, matches the property that I expect in the JSON file exactly, including the casing, I believe, right? So for example, here I would like to say public string, this is going to be channel, also it needs to match real well. Then for active, this is going to be a public boolean, and then I'm going to call active public, and for the age is probably going to be an integer because, you know, sorry, because we never define age as 2.3. That's not kind of a thing. And then for members, because this is going to be an array of strings, something that I can do is I can say, well, I'm going to define this as a list of strings, and I'm going to call members. You probably also could use an array, but lists are just very handy in C#. And then once I have defined the template for the data structure that is going to come from this JSON object, then it's just going to be really easy. So I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to declare a variable called deserialized, and that's going to be, and you see, autocomplete. Visual Studio is much smarter than me. So the autocomplete already gave me everything that I need to do. So JSON convert is basically a static class that lives as part of the Newtonsoft package. All right. And I'm going to write this manually. And then from that, I can just ask for deserialization method. So can I deserialize a particular object? And what I can do is I can force that object to be of a particular type. So because I have already defined YouTuber, I can say, can you deserialize the object that I'm going to give you and make sure that it's going to be of the type of the template that I generated, YouTuber? And then in parentheses, I want to give it the string that has that JSON data. So that's going to be the JSON that I got from there, all right? So I did declare this as an implicit variable with var, but technically the return of this object is going to be something that is going to be of the type YouTuber. So it's a variable of this type. So hopefully after this works, so what I can do is I can start printing things such as, for example, deserialize.name. I can print out deserialize.channel, deserialize.active, and deserialize.age. And then for each variable member in this, and you can see that the serialize.members, I can also print member, and then member. All right. So if I run this, hopefully this is going to work. And you can see that indeed from my object, I'm already printing the name, the channel, the active, the age, and then each one of the members that are part of our beautiful parametric camp community. Okay, fantastic. So this would be an example of deserialization, or from a string representation of a JSON file, how to turn it into a C# fully fledged object. All right. Now, what if I wanted to take this YouTuber and I needed to send it as a JSON file somewhere to an API request, etc.? How would I do that? The process, now that we have the entire thing, is actually super, super simple. Look at this. The only thing that I need to do now is I need to say, I'm going to create a string variable, because JSONs are basically strings at the end of the day, that I'm going to call serialized. All right. And what I'm going to do is basically the inverse operation. I'm going to use JSON convert. And here, what I'm going to, instead of deserializing, I'm going to serialize an object. In this case, I don't need to specify the type, because as soon as I give it the object itself, which is going to be deserialized, right? Then JSON is going to know what to do with this. And after I do that, then what I can do is I can just print the entire JSON serialized object. All right. So for example, like this, you can see that if I do this, now I have what I printed before, and now I have a full-fledged first-class citizen JSON file with the name, the channel, active, etc., and all the information. So this is going to be super, super handy if you ever need to do any JSON serialization or deserialization. Now, here for the string, we actually did take this string from, we actually copy pasted the string right over here, but this is also something that we could read from a file. So I can just say here, string.json, and can I read the information that is inside a JSON file somewhere in my system? And in my system, I have this file here. So for example, this is going to be system.io, read all the text, and then here, what I would like to do is I would like to input where my file is. So that's going to be somewhere here in my system. So I can right click with and copy as a path here, and then I can just say with the add, so that I don't have to escape all these characters, C users desktop parametric.json, and then hopefully this should also work, correct? Yes, it does work, and now the information is being read from the file. Okay, beautiful. So if you're working with data JSON files, if you're doing HTTP post requests, GET requests, etc., from C#, all of this is going to be extremely, extremely useful for you. All right. So hopefully this was useful. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you like what you saw, please subscribe to the channel, watch our other videos, say hi, join our Discord, etc., etc. Okay. Thanks a lot. Bye bye. Okay, and the introduction. From the introduction, I'm going to all right, let's record the introduction. And let me make sure that when we press, I'm going to not have to bring the window all the way over there, you know. Okay. Hello, this is Jose Luis here at Parametric Camp, and welcome to another video in our Coding Gems series. What I would like to teach you in this video is how to take something that looks like this, which is a JSON representation of some kind of data, blah, 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 starting over again. Hello, this is Jose Luis here at Parametric Camp, and welcome to another video in our Coding Gem series. All right. So in this video, what I would like to teach you is to take something that looks like this, which is a file that contains data organized in the form of the JSON data. Starting over again. What do I want to say actually? Which is data that is formatted in the JSON format, Okay, how to convert data that you have and into a okay. All right. Hello, this is Jose Luis here at Parametric Camp, and welcome to another video in our Coding Gems series. In this video, I would like to teach you how to work with something like this, which is data in the JSON format and that I have in a file in my system. And I would like to help you understand. Now, starting over again. Okay. Hello, this is Jose Luis here at Parametric Camp, and welcome to another video in our series Coding Gems. In this video, what I would like to teach you is how to take something that looks like this, which is data in the JSON format, and how to be able to bring it into a C# application that's called the deserialization, work with that data inside of a C# application, and then perhaps also take data that you have in C# and export it into the JSON format. All right, this is going to look something like this, for example, where I have this object that is kind of representing some kind of YouTuber, for example, like myself. And then I'm going to be able to bring that data from the file and then just print all the properties in the console, and then also serialize that data into a JSON string that then I could use to save to a file, to send as part of an HTTP request, etc., etc. There's many things you can do. JSON is one of the most, if not the most popular format for data exchange now in the internet and also in the world of applications. So it's going to be actually super easy, and it's going to be one of the most helpful tips that I'm probably going to give you in many of these videos that I'm doing these days. So let's take a look at how to do JSON serialization and deserialization in C#. No, I actually want to start the video by saying I'm going to teach you how to do JSON serialization and deserialization. That's how I want to start, and then I will break down what that means. So starting over again. And Richard, this might be top 5 of the most takes that I've ever done for one video. Yes. All right, let's do this. And I need to go very soon. Hello, this is Jose Luis here at Parametric Camp, and welcome to another video in our Coding Gem series, where what I would like to teach you is how to serialize and deserialize JSON data using the C# programming language. And what do I mean by that? Well, you've probably encountered something like this in your life. This is a file that has some data that is using the JSON structure to represent key value pairs. Turns out that this kind of format is one of the most popular formats for data exchange in the internet with for HTTP requests as data exchange in applications. And it turns out that C# is actually pretty good at importing this kind of data. So what I would like to teach you in this video is how to take, for example, data that is saved in a file as a JSON file in your system, how to read that file and turn it into an object that you can retrieve particular properties from, and then also how once we have an object that lives in C# and that where we can manipulate the properties, how to turn that object into a JSON representation as a string in case we need to send it as an HTTP request or we need to save it as a file, etc., etc. This is going to be perhaps one of the most useful and practical videos that I've done in many videos in this channel, but it's going to be definitely super helpful for you as well because you're going to encounter JSON data in your programming life for sure, 200% guaranteed. Okay, let's take a look at how to do this in C#. Okay, this one I did like better, so we're keeping this one. All right. And with that, I actually have to go because I have a meeting at 11:30 and I need to get there. And I don't know how I'm going to get there. And okay, my life is a mess these days. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. We only did this video, but the next video should be just super straightforward, which is taking what we've done in this video and just applying to the component. Okay, so let's do that later on next week or something. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. I have to go. It was a pleasure. Bye bye. See you next week. Bye bye. Actually, no, next week I'm not around. We don't have Parametric Camp next week. It's going to be in 2 weeks, okay? Unless I change the time or do something weird, but we don't have Parametric Camp next Friday, okay? See you around. Bye bye.